Okay, our next speaker is our sort of special guest speaker, Lauchlan McIntosh. So for those of you who don't know Lauchlan, he's been a tireless and fearless advocate for safety, not only within road safety, but also within the mining industry for many decades. Within road safety, he's held many significant positions. He was on the inaugural board and was chair of the global new car assessment program. He was also had a similar role with the international charity group, the Towards Zero Foundation, from 2011 to 2020. And he was also president of the Australasian College of Road Safety, among many other positions he's held over the years. And so we thought we'd invite Lauchlan to give his perspective on CASA's impact and contribution to road safety over the past 50 years. So thank you, Lauchlan.
Thanks. Thanks very much. After all the other words that have been said, it's difficult to sort of, say things that haven't already been said. So you'll have to put up with some of the things that haven't been said and said again. But I echo certainly the welcome and the acknowledgements that Jeremy made to all the players who've supported, and congratulations to the centre and to Raru and to Jack. And I have to say it's fantastic to see Jack and Mary and here today with Jeremy, the three leaders of the centre. As mentioned, I spent about 30 years in the mining industry in various forms, but I became engaged in vehicle and road safety and about after that 30 years, and started off in a whole new approach. Too often, I think, in the community, and hence in the political arena, and I acknowledge Senator Stirl up the back, who's a tireless campaigner in this space as well, that safety is not seen as something we need to do. Someone else should do it. And so we sort of, we put it out of our head. We hope that somehow or other, well, someone else should be better. And so all the work you do and all the activities that everybody puts in, mining's easy to say, well, that's remote, it must be dangerous, it might even be underground, how bad is that? And then road safety, well, we're all drivers or pedestrians or cyclists or something, and we're always all right. It's always someone else that's a problem, you know, it's those other people that sort of... And so, should we do any research? No, not really, you know, if only other people would sort of behave themselves, we'd get over it. So, safety success, though, has been significant. And I think, you know, the work that Jack started here and has continued at the centre, the work we did in the mining industry, it's dramatically changed in that 50 years. And there's been a huge shift and a huge benefits from better safety, from a whole raft of activities. And so while the mining industry isn't the story for tonight, I'd rather like to sort of point out a couple of celebratory things that I've been involved with the centre, and then perhaps give you a little homily on what I think about some bigger issues in road safety. But it's a positive view. It's a glass half full view. We've done a great lot of things in road safety, and we've got to fill the rest of the glass. We've got to do more. It doesn't mean to say we shouldn't do what we haven't been doing or have been doing. We've got to keep at it. We've got to stay the course. The Honourable Barry Cohen, who was the Federal Minister back in the 70s and 80s in the Hawke government, he spoke here in Adelaide at the College of Road Safety's event in 2013, 10 years ago, and he said, starting with the number of people killed in 1970, which was 3,798 in Australia, he predicted the number of deaths then in the next 40 years would be 101,000. That was what the expectation was. But he said, because of the work that was done, that started in those early days, and you can dream up all the things that have been done, from seatbelts to alcohol to enforcement, all the things that safer cars, the better roads. But had we not had those things, then about 7,000 people would be dying on our roads instead of 1,200, and about 240,000 would be seriously injured today. So the work that's been done is fantastic. You know, we should never forget that. Because for every, at the moment, it's 1,200 people dying every year and 40,000 serious injuries. I'm pleased to see tonight the conversation talking about serious injuries, because too often we focus on the deaths and not the serious injuries. Professor Haworth in Queensland has said, stop counting the dead. She said, we've got to start looking at who is being injured and why. In the mining industry, we counted near misses. We stopped. We're not even worried about the serious injured. We spent a lot of time on near misses, and it made a huge difference to the way we did the thing. But the work of so many people in so many areas, the researchers, the engineers, the police, the trauma responders, the carers, the doctors, the policy makers, businesses, insurers, advocates, trainers, technicians, magistrates, coroners, inventors, and many others in the community have made a great difference. Congratulations to all of you who have been working in this space. As was mentioned, I became chairman of the local NCAP in 1994, which was crash testing a few new cars, comparing and publishing the results, the comparative, to actually name and shame the manufacturers to build and considerably safer cars. Car manufacturers, the standards regulators pushed back against what's basically almost a volunteer group of passionate engineers led by Michael Griffiths, who's here tonight. It was a tough call and Michael will tell you how tough it was, A, to get the money, and B, to get the people to listen and believe what NCAP was doing was correct. A lot of people, almost voluntarily, professional people, stuck by Michael and the plans to actually do this. And it was a tough call. But it resulted in the manufacturers eventually, once they got a 5-star car, whoa, ours is better than yours. And it made a huge difference. They just, I can tell you the arguments that we had were amazing. One manufacturer said, listen, you should test 10 cars so we can get an average. I said, which one should we buy, number 1 or number 10? It's a tough call. But the variation in the quality of the cars at that time was stunning or appalling. As a mine manager, where I'd worked to sort of build safe environments on the plant, in the quarry, in the pit, on the railway, wherever we were working, we went out of our way to make sure the environment was safe, and to find that people were making cars that when you crashed them just fell apart. The dummy we had to send back to America to be recalibrated, and there was a problem. We flew them over to America. They might have a heavy landing and they might have to recalibrate it again. The costs were enormous. But, it was a tough call. The quality of the cars was appalling when we started. I was just stunned, and getting the credibility to make a difference was tough. We had virtually around 2000, we were still struggling to show a 5-star car. But by 2014, we had almost 75% of the fleet. And as Carla's made the point there, they've added a whole range of things to the activity. Crashworthiness, of course, was valuable for the car occupants. But then the question was, what about the pedestrians? Well, who goes out and buys a car so you don't run over someone? Nobody, So it wasn't an issue. We couldn't necessarily do that. But Jack had been doing the work of testing and looking at pedestrian friendliness, if you like, and NCAP could see the need. Jack and Kazza had the brains and the research, and we at NCAP had the need, so we cooperated. And without hardly any money, without hardly any resources, we scraped up enough, and we got the testing going. Jack, I mean, that was, and we promoted it. And as Carla showed you, we showed pedestrian ratings separately from the normal crash test. Well, that was all right. Manufacturer said, well, who cares? It doesn't matter. Well, once we started to show that, this was consistent, it was reliable, it was quality work that CASA was doing, and then once one manufacturer did a little better than another, oh, look, we're doing better than someone else. Oh, good. And lo and behold, everybody wanted to do it. Of course, there were some international standards coming in. Too often in Australia, we lag international best practice. So it was a tough call. One of the other things that CASA does, that apart from, if you like, the research we think about, is their contribution to reviews and to parliamentary inquiries, to a raft of things. That takes a huge amount of work. As Jeremy would know, Jack would know, and Mary would know. Mary and Jeremy worked on one, and then Jeremy and John Crozier is here, worked on another one in 2018. A huge amount of work that personally put in. We didn't use Ernst & Young or PwC or anything like that. We actually sort of got on with the job and worked really hard. A colleague of mine at IRAP, the Road Assessment Program, which is another fantastic issue I won't talk about, but and we put in a recommendation. In the end, the government, under Michael McCormack, who was actually, we said in that review, I should say, Jeremy said in that review, and John, we should have a federal cabinet minister responsible for road safety. We needed a national office for road safety, and we needed $3 billion a year as a fund to get on with really getting serious about doing research and communicating the information. Now, of course, you know, with reviews, and you can watch Utopia and see what happens to government reviews. Yes, Minister, it's all the same. But I can tell you, I don't know how many I've done. It's pretty terrible. But you know, we actually sometimes we make a bit of a breakthrough. And in 2020, Michael McCormack, who was then actually a cabinet minister with responsibility for road safety, he said, we're going to spend $2 billion over 18 months with a new road safety program to deliver 3,000 kilometres of life-saving improvements such as shoulder sealing, rumble strips, median treatments, and if we'll give the money to the states, if they don't do it in 6 months, we'll take the money off them and hand it to another state. What? This was amazing, and they had to sort of send in a form that said they'd actually made some progress. Well, that was amazing. I mean, that work that Jeremy and John did actually worked. We actually got a cabinet minister, an office, and things actually happened. And I can tell you, having driven, I drove over here to Kangaroo Island last year from Canberra, and I've been down to Tasmania. You can see that work being spent on the roads to make a difference. You know, you can see all those things actually happening. So, and I think, you know, when I asked a few people about what do you think about CASA, my mates in the whole business, the words I got back were professional, practical, innovative, great mentors and resourceful. And so there is a lot to celebrate. The university, I think here, the South Australian Government, the regulator and supporters of the centre, all those people you saw there and NCAP, should be rightly very proud of the work that CASA has done and continue to do in reducing road trauma. This must be a real gem centre in my view. And I've seen work around the world from my work with international charities and from Global NCAP. The work here is fantastic. And I only wish we could make it national, make it broader. I mean, the university really must see this as a huge benefit. One of the problems is we see, and you probably won't like what I say, that there's a conga line of ministers, a conga line of officials. And I've been doing this, and Jack, we've been doing this for a lot of years. There's always someone else. Just when you get across the border or get across an argument to do something, someone else turns up, oh, they've been moved on, and you start again. How many times do we have to start again? It's Groundhog Day, so many times, you know. NCAP introduced autonomous emergency braking as a necessary for 5-star cars in 2008, but that feature won't be mandated in new models until this year, 2023. There's this huge lag in getting anything done. You know, we know what to do. We've got the answers, but it's so hard to push this and tell the stories. Bella Dinzar, who was the past deputy chair of the US National Transport Safety Bureau and well known to people here, she urges that we need to think about road safety science with the stories to tell the results of the research so they're accepted. We have to do more about explaining the research and telling people what has actually been done. You know, pedestrian testing has been done here for decades. You know, and it's fantastic to see that. I went out to the lab today to remind myself of how fantastic it is. You know, so we need to sort of realise that all these other things are happening. We are committed in thinking about safety, about it's someone else's problem. You know, blame the driver. How were they doing? What were they? Well, they must have been drunk. That must have caused it. Well, whatever it was. But there's no doubt, being drunk, being distracted, being incapable, all those things are a problem. And we can't not stop working on those things. But there are a raft of other causes. There is a huge number of other things that contribute to crashes. The work CASA does here in investigating those crashes is so vital, you know, and analysing, interpreting the work and thinking about it and getting other people to realise that it's so important, is so important. The science, the engineering, the management, all these factors, you've talked about it here tonight, but it really is. You've got to go out and tell the story with it, as Bella tells us, you know. Last year, the federal budget allocated $18.9 billion over 3 years for research and road safety data and to evaluate programs. 18 million over 3 years, 6 million a year. The federal government only talks in billions. What's 18 million? Nothing, you know, to be honest. Sorry, Glenn. I mean, it's a small start. It's a very small start, but we need to really have scale, you know. When Brian Schmidt, who's the Vice-Chancellor of the ANU, and the Nobel Prize winner and astronomer, when I went to the press club speech that he gave years ago, and someone said, well, how can you possibly be a leading astronomer sitting here in Canberra, you know, a little farm and growing some grapes? He said, I've got this massive scale. I collaborate with everybody in the world. I've got the best internet connection. I talk to people all night. I'm into scale. He said, I'm not here just working by myself. And I think we need scale in road safety. We really need to see all those multiple factors. The 7 NCAP groups around the world do work together. We have a global NCAP umbrella. We've had that for some time. We used to call it World NCAP. But shared research, shared results, shared stories give the program scale. Our research organisations, they do collaborate, but in my view, it's not enough. We really need a decent, big-sized picture. We have a National Office of Road Safety. We have a new national strategy for reducing road trauma. We even had a new meeting of the federal ministers responsible for road safety in Perth last month. I'm still waiting to see the outcome. But we still have no federal minister responsible in the Cabinet, no Cabinet minister, and no ongoing $3 billion fund. But let's recognise that we have a half-filled glass. Let's remind people that we've done so much, that you people have done so much. We need to develop the science, we need to build the engineering, build the scale, and tell the stories. 50 years ago, people said it couldn't be done. People said, you won't fix it, you'll be stuck with 4,000 people, and there's more people on the road dying, that's what's going to happen. But it hasn't happened. We're down to 1,200. There's no reason why we can't get to zero. If you come from 4,000 to 1,200 or in the 90,000 injuries, we can come down to nothing. We don't expect to get on a train or a plane and die, and very, very few people do. We have to change the way we think. But if you tell people about the successes, people will believe it. So congratulations to Raru and to Kaza for helping to prove these people wrong, the sceptics, for their persistence in continuing the quest for that cultural change. Should we build on this success? Well, President Obama said, yes, we can. So go out and tell the success yourselves. Thank you very much.